rhythm and dance, and it's so evocative. It's so, everywhere you go, there's a beat. And that was some of the kids where we go into, some of the communities we go into. And our kids just love drumming. They love dancing. And it was really great to hear that you have a dance, what's it called, a dance club? Yeah, brilliant. Love it. And there's a Bantu proverb which says this. It translates to this. When the beat of the drum changes, the steps of the dance change. And that is what Pentecost is all about. Oh, I've got a clicker here. Moment. Do this. Oh, perfect. Do I go here or just in the middle? Oh, look. Okay. We're going to avoid these because that was just amazing, the Lego. So I think we've had the scriptures. But at Pentecost, that's what happened. The beat of the drum changed. Before that, like Matt kept saying, the birth of the church. But actually, it was that because the beat of the drum changed. The Holy Spirit came for everybody, to be on everybody, to equip everybody. Not just the odd person, not just a few people, but for all people. It changed. The beat of the drum changed. And the question is, are we changing our dance to the beat of the drum now that the Holy Spirit is available to all of us in whatever we're doing every day? And I'm just going to miss a little bit here. Imagine, I want you just to imagine when we left, so it's nearly 8 years ago, it'll be 8 years in January, so 7.5 years ago, we headed off to Africa. And just imagine if Chris and I had gone there just as Chris and Jo, just in what we could do, our capabilities. How arrogant is that to think that we could be of any help, any use whatsoever, to go in our strength, to go in our power? The Holy Spirit was the one who, number one, convicted us and just poured a love for the communities there into our hearts. We love this area, and this is where we were based. But the Holy Spirit spoke to us so profoundly to go, and since then we have totally depended on the Holy Spirit to fill us. And on your right hand side here is a picture which I had recently of a cup. It was actually 2 cups, and on one side was a cup which was quite full, and so I sort of said to the Lord, what's this a picture of? What does this cup mean? And it was Chris, and the cup was quite full, but then on top of that it was overflowing. And what was already in the cup, and it was sort of 3/4 full, was all of his capacity, all of his gifting. He's quite a gifted accountant, and he's from a heritage of Christian generation upon generation upon generation. And he's a lovely chap, and a bit biased, but he really is. And so actually, him going, he had quite a lot to take with him. He had quite a lot to offer. But then the Holy Spirit filled him to overflowing to look like this. Well, there was another cup there that was me, and the cup was quite about this full. And And that is often how we feel. We feel, well, what have I got to offer? I wasn't from a Christian family. I was a bit of a naughty girl, really. I was a bit rough around the edges. And so my capabilities, my gifting, my talents were actually not very full. But my cup was overflowing. My cup actually looked the same as Chris's in terms of it was overflowing. And that's what the Holy Spirit does for us. Each one of us here, no matter how much we start with, when we ask the Holy Spirit to fill us, we are overflowing. So you may look at Matt or Mims or Carrie or someone here and you think, oh, I could never do what they do. But let me tell you, if the Holy Spirit is filling you to overflowing, you can. Your gifting might be in a different way, but you're overflowing. There's not one. The Holy Spirit doesn't say, oh, well, I'm just going to give you a little bit. Just enough. Oh, yeah, you can have a bit more. No. It says in Psalm 23 that our cup overflows. And so we're all the same. We are all equal. And I just think that's so beautiful and so encouraging. And so when I was thinking about Pentecost and I was reading the Lego, reading all those passages, I really was struck by two things. And so the first one is that we're called to be different. When the Holy Spirit came and he filled those people, they were different. They stood out from the crowd. They looked different. And there's this woman who I want to tell you about. She's on the left here, and she's a grandmother, and she's called Constance. And I meet with her every Wednesday. I'm in this community called Ilanshoek. And this is her granddaughter who she cares for. And, she quite colourful, I think we would describe her as. So she's from Mozambique. Her and her husband, they fled Mozambique. Alcohol has been quite an issue in their home. Abuse has been quite an issue. And she, whenever something happens, her first port of call is to go to the witch doctor, go to the Sangoma. She goes to church, but she worships her ancestors as well. And so, and that is very much, you can't blame her at all, because that's very much, a lot of that is part of her culture. That is where she's from. That's what she's been brought up with. And over this last 18 months, we've been bringing the truth about Jesus. We've been opening scriptures. We've been doing life with her. And the Wednesday before I came here, I said to all of the care workers, I just said, we've been opening scriptures and we've been, sharing our lives with you and coming and staying in your homes and being with you, just doing life with you for quite a while now. Can you tell me, has anything changed in your life? And she said, I'm different. I'm different now. And I was just so encouraged that she said, I'm different because when there's a problem now, I don't seek my ancestors. I don't seek to go to the Sangoma. No, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm coming here. And this is the truth. This is who I am. I'm not an object anymore. I have value. And it's just beautiful that the Holy Spirit has softened this woman's heart, and she is now different. She is in our community as a care worker, influencing 200 children who come every day And she is different. She stands out. She stands up for the truth. And it's just a beautiful testimony of what the Holy Spirit can do, that transformation that the Holy Spirit can do in not just Constance's life, in all of our lives. She's really beautiful. You know, we have ups and downs, as we always do. But I'm learning a lot from Constance. And in that passage, when the Holy Spirit came and they were different, you know, there was a response from people. And I think that is the thing, that we can be a bit fearful, can't we, of being different and how people are going to respond to us. But what the Holy Spirit did was he gave them a boldness. And from that boldness, some people, they were in awe. They were like, there's something about these people. There's something different about them. What is it? They were, intrigued by what was different. But others mocked them. And I think we've learned that actually that people's responses, that isn't for me to worry about. I'm being obedient. I'm living by the Holy Spirit and being obedient to what the Holy Spirit is asking me to do. I'm not going to convert anybody. I'm not going to reveal the truth to people. It's the Lord who will do that. And so he knows how people are responding. He's the one, the Holy Spirit is the one who will soften hearts. And so it sort of releases me of that fear of how are people going to react to me? Are they going to think I'm weird? Well, I am a bit weird, but that's how the Lord wants me to be. So we're called to be different in Hembury, in Brentry. We're called to be different, to stand out. And somebody challenged us a little while ago. We have life groups, which are home groups, and this lady said, if your life, your day was filmed with the volume off, would you look any different from everybody else? And it was a challenge. It made us really think, well, would it? Would we look any different, or would I just look the same as the communities that I'm in? And so I'll leave that one with you. So you may think this is quite the opposite, which it is, but the second thing that I was struck by is that we're called to be the same. So we're called to be completely different, but we are called to be the same. We're called to be the same as Jesus. Jesus, when he started his ministry, he waited until he was baptized and the Holy Spirit came upon him. And that started his ministry. So why do I think that I can do it in my own strength and do it, with all of my capability? Who do I think I am? If Jesus needed the Holy Spirit, I certainly do. And so we're called to be the same as Jesus, dependent on the Holy Spirit. And the beautiful thing that happened, and I don't know whether you picked up on it, I'm sure you did, but when the Holy Spirit came on them, they spoke in the mother tongue of those present. And believe me, I pray regularly that I can speak Siswati, because I can see that when I am in community, when I'm with children and when I'm with women and I'm coming alongside them and counselling and, just sharing life with them, when I have an interpreter with me, there's this wall. But when I start to speak Siswati, then that wall comes down. Actually, there's quite a lot of confusion. But, the aim is the wall comes down. But what happens, and I do see, is that people, they go, oh, this person is being intentional. This person is actually trying to come alongside us. This person is trying to do life with us and be the same as us. So completely different, but at the same time, that same heartbeat, the same rhythm that they are living, and coming alongside them and matching their rhythm, matching their dance. And that's what we're called to be the same. I want to quite quickly tell you about this guy on your left. He's called John, and this was a youth camp, which we do 2 youth camps every year. And this is a great game. It's called Granny's Stockings. And if you want to know about Granny's Stockings, it's a really good game, but it's quite messy. And John is from a family which is quite troubled, and he doesn't have a mum. He lives with an auntie. He has an older brother who follows the Lord, but he felt very much in his shadow. He's been coming to our centre for food for years and years and years, since he was a young boy. But he's heard about Jesus lots, but never, it just like washed off him. And he was a bit of a rogue, and he would always wear strings around his wrists, around his waist, because in his culture, that means that he's going to be protected. They've been prayed over, and if you wear those, then you're protected. And so over the course of this youth camp, he was hearing about Jesus, but he was introduced and he welcomed the Holy Spirit. And the change in this young man's life was phenomenal. Suddenly his heart was softened, and he was like, I now understand. He understood who Jesus was. And that was the Holy Spirit coming and touching this young man's life. And now he is different, but he's also the same. He is the one now who's back at the centre talking to the other boys and talking to the other kids. Before we eat, we always gather in a circle, and we play games and we share encouragement and that kind of thing. He's the one doing it now. And the beautiful thing was, at the end of the camp, we do baptisms. And he said, I'm not going to be baptised. And so I was slightly surprised. He said, no, I want to go home and I want to tell my aunt, I want to tell my family about that there's no power in these strings, and I want to cut them off with them. And then when we do the camp in September, I'll be baptised. And it was just so beautiful that when the Holy Spirit came on him, he's witnessing. He's going out there with boldness, facing his family, facing the community, and some will ridicule him. But, the majority are just in awe of the transformation of John. And so, without the Holy Spirit, these are just a few pictures of my week, really, of what I do and who I'm with. And, I am very different to the people who I'm with. But I'm also, after 7.5 years of being there, I'm also the same as them, and coming alongside them and opening up to them, and they're very, very dear to me now. And, and I've been getting some WhatsApps. How's it going? Send me a photo, and that's beautiful, because that opens up the door for us to share the truth. And that's what happened at Pentecost. They spoke the truth about Jesus. And that's what we're all called to do. Your community looks a bit different than this, but it's the same mission. Completely the same mission. To share the gospel, to share the good news. Oh no, I don't want that one yet. Okay. I don't know whether you've heard this. I'm nearly finished. But Pope Francis, the Pope who has just died, he said this. He said, "You need to smell like a sheep." Okay. You need to be capable of living, of laughing and crying with your sheep. And what he meant when he said we need to smell like sheep, he was saying to his cardinals, really, they needed to get out of their palaces and they needed to go amongst the people and be amongst the people, doing life with them. And I think that is what the Lord calls us to do. He calls us to smell like the sheep. He calls us to smell like everybody who lives in Henbury and do life with people here. To be the same as people here, but to be different as well. And it's only the Holy Spirit who can do that, can give us that same but different. There's a chap called Matthew Skirton. So Chris, he works for Operation Mobilisation, and Matthew Skirton is a high-up bod in that mission organisation. And he says this, which I just think is so good. He said, we need the whole church taking the whole gospel to the whole world. We need the whole church. That's you. That's our church in South Africa and in Zambia. That's across this city. This is what's happening down in the city centre today for Pentecost. We need the whole church taking the whole gospel, not parts of it which are just comfortable for people to hear. The whole gospel, the good news, needs to go out, and it needs to go to the whole world. And I don't know whether maybe while I've been sharing, you've been just having a thought of a neighbour or a country or a certain area of this area, or something that one of the notices that Matt spoke about earlier, and you think, actually, I think the Holy Spirit is prompting me to go, to be involved in that, to actually pray for that person, to be bold and to witness to them, to bring the truth to them. And really that's where I want to finish. We can't do it. Braintree and Henbury, they don't need all of us. They need Jesus. And the Holy Spirit is filling each one of us, if we so wish, so that we can be the answer, that we can bring the truth to this community, because they desperately need to hear the truth.